type of thing. Okay, I'm going to check the computer here. And Melissa in Fort Wayne. Melissa, good afternoon. What's your question for Mitch today?
Hi. Well, Mitch, thank you for being on today. I'm so glad that you are here to offer some hope. I just wanted to bring up, I know that a lot of people are hurting, and I know a lot of people have desperation in their life. And right now, sometimes they don't know where to turn and feel like maybe I don't deserve restoration. Can you talk about how you can find hope and restoration no matter who you are or no matter what you've been through? Because I know you're so good about talking about those things.
I can, and I recognize that voice. Melissa really brings up a great question, and she lives this out in her life. But so many of us think that we got to get ourselves cleaned up to come to God, but we need to come to God to get cleaned up. And I've seen it so many times as a teaching pastor where somebody walks in and they say, oh man, I'm not ready to surrender my life to Christ. I'm not good enough. And I'll really ask them to help me understand what they mean. Do they really mean that they want to get cleaned up to come to God, or do they mean that it's not going to be authentic if they surrender right now? And if it's the latter, we surrender our lives to Christ right there, and they start to walk Restoration Road. But no matter where you are in your life, God's available, and He's there, He's present, and He's done everything that He needs to do to draw you to Restoration Road. All you have to do is pray a simple prayer, and it's, I can't, you can. I can't restore this old basket case of a life. God in Christ, you can. And then you live a life of a whole bunch of little I can't, you can'ts, just like we're doing today.
Okay, and so that's what will help give people some hope that there is a better tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And let's get to Myrtle in Fort Wayne. Myrtle, I don't know if we've ever had a Myrtle call in. It's nice to have you. What's your question for Mitch today?
I just want to thank Mitch for the funeral. I'm LB's sister, and he did his funeral. No man could ever pay a higher compliment than he paid my brother for letting him be a grandfather to his and Susie's children, and I just want him to know that I really appreciated it.
Oh, that's sweet, Myrtle. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. LB was a grandfather to my children, and he was on a trip with us in Florida, and he passed away on that trip, and so we rushed back, and he was what Paul talks about in a letter he wrote. He made it his ambition to live a simple life, and to work with his hands, and to not be a burden to anyone, and he was a tremendous encouragement. And so I remember using the imagery of a river of peace because he was a very peaceful man.
Wow, sounds like a life well lived. Myrtle, thank you so much.
I thank you, Mitch. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's time for us to take another break. When we come back, Susan has a question, so we'll get to hers when we come back. Just a minute.
Continues with the Noon Extra on 21 Alive.
Welcome back. We are here with Mitch Cruz, and we're talking about his book, Restoration Road, and kind of the journey that you went through personally. And I want to get to Susan in Fort Wayne. Susan, what is your question for Mitch today?
I have a question. I remember one time...
Restoration Road, and kind of the journey that you went through, personally. And I want to get to Susan in Fort Wayne. Susan, what is your question for Mitch today?
I have a question. I remember one time Mitch was explaining the wills of God, and I cannot remember it, and I would just really love to hear it again.
Okay.
Wow, you put me on the spot. This comes from an idea that a theologian in the 1200s had, and I tried to put it in simple terms. And there are really three wills of God that come from two Greek words used in the scriptures. And the first one is the absolute will of God. It's what God's going to do no matter what. He determined when He's coming in Christ, when He's returning. That's all God's business, and nobody's going to get in the way of it. The second one is the approved will of God. It's God's right to move on us and to prompt us towards something that He wants us to do. Abraham, you go. That kind of a thing. And then there's the allowable will of God. You eat of any tree in the garden, except one. It even allows us to choose apart from Him. And so that's really helped me, because we really can misunderstand God's mercy, God's grace, and God's absolute flawlessness, totally otherness, if we try to put everything into one of those three categories. So there's the absolute will of God, the approved will of God, and the allowable will of God.
Okay. Susan, does that answer your question?
It sure does. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
And let's get to Tricia in Fort Wayne. Tricia, you're looking for suggestions for small kids. What do you mean by that?
Well, for instance, it is very, very difficult. I'm a grandmother, excuse me, a grandmother, but I have a little grandson, and it just seems like there's so much that children are exposed to today. And I just wondered if he has written any books for children, or where he'd recommend, that a child would go to get the very best guidance.
Okay, that's a really good question.
It's a great question, and I'm working on some children's books. I have this whole character who's going to resemble my cousin Kenny. But anyway.
Does Kenny know this?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He thinks it's great. I would recommend, depending on the age, if it's kind of like 5, 6 years old, down to maybe even 2 or 3, there's the Bible Learner Storybook, the Young Bible Learner Storybook by Mary Main Simon. She's an educator, and so she teaches you things in addition to the Bible story itself. It's phenomenal. It'll teach prepositions, machines, and all kinds of things. And my girls absolutely loved it. And as they would grow and learn to read, as we would go through that, they would end up actually reading it to me. So it was just a fantastic thing.
And the name of that author again?
Mary Mains Simon.
Simon, okay.
And then if it's a teen or, a little older, Fellowship of Christian Athletes has some outstanding Bibles for teens, especially if they're involved in sports. And so I'd highly recommend that as well. And you can check out my website for more information on things like this. I have a lot of video clips and a lot of devotionals and things like that. And that's MitchCruz.com, Kruse, MitchCruz.com, or TheRestorationRoad.com.
TheRestorationRoad.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Tricia, do you have access to a computer?
Yes, I do. And I really appreciate this information, because this is a little boy that will be 8 years old in June. He's very, very interested in religion. He's an only child, however, and so a lot of times he plays by himself and all this sort of thing, and it just seems like that he's interested in watching TV a lot, or there's a constant battle going on. Okay, no, you can't watch this program, you can't watch that program, and I really feel that a child needs reinforcement from some other place other than just from parents and grandmothers.
Right, even though moms and grandmas try their best.
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. Showing him a positive way and something that he'll be interested in is the way to do that, I think. So I'd really become a master of all your options of the other things he could watch that would be beneficial toward him and that he would be engaged in as well.
Okay, well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And we are all out of time, but I wanted to say to Carol and to Susie, who are on hold, stay put, stay on the line, and Mitch has said that he will answer your calls after we are done with the show. So thanks for